Hello dear friends. The contactee Cobra has just broken my schemes about a hypothetical future of humankind with this updated report he has just published. It is not necessary to believe anything blindly, but to accept it as a possibility. Contrast it with other messages and feel if it resonates in your heart. There are no dogmas here, but openness of conscience. Opinion piece. Change of plans. Revised Ascension Plan. New galactic information. There would be direct physical intubation. At the time of maximum social unrest. Ascension window wouldn't close in 2025. All negative timelines would collapse. Monumental changes expected between 2023 and 2026. Positive forces will use quantum pulse weapons. It takes quite some time to complete purge a system. Those preparing to ascend will live on islands of light. Lightworkers will go through massive healing process. Society will undergo drastic transformation after the event. When the galactic pulse arrives, the first wave of ascension will occur. Humankind will be evacuated to a planet in the Pleiades star system. Ukrainian president doubts Russia's alleged invasion on February 16th. Let's start. The time has come to publish the next part of the Ascension Plan for this planet according to the 2012 portal of the Intelligence Center for the Victory of Light. Some of the information on the Ascension Plan was already published in a previous update. Since then, the plan has evolved and the forces of light have provided new information. Most importantly, the forces of light have communicated that the ascension window from 1975 to 2025 will not close in 2025, but will remain open permanently. This means that the energies will continue to increase, and from 2025 the energies of ascension will flow permanently from the central galactic sun through our solar system to the planetary surface. The forces of light have refused to comment on what that means practically for the timing of the event. Based on the information I have, I can make a guess and speculate on two possible scenarios. First, the first scenario predicts the event in a time period of 3 to 5 months from now, and then a rapid transformation of surface human society until the galactic pulse in 2025. Second, the second scenario predicts the event in 2025 and the galactic pulse a few years later, but before 2030. Please note that these dates are only speculations and may be wrong, as they were not directly confirmed by the forces of light. Ascension Plan. It is also very important that there was a substantial change in the Ascension Plan when Project 501 collapsed in the summer of 2019. It then became absolutely clear that the forces of light that suffer humankind couldn't experience healing and liberation without direct physical intervention, and that surface society will have to go through a slow collapse until direct divine intervention can be safely introduced without the dark forces destroying the planet. Therefore, the original plan with 3 ascension waves between the event and the galactic superwave was too ambitious and had to be revised. So, here is the revised Ascension Plan. First, the energy surge from the galactic central sun will continue to purify all remaining quantum and subquantum anomalies around the planet and beyond, and the forces of light will continue to remove all negative non-physical entities. Some fairly reliable clues about the removal of various aspects of the main anomaly can be found here, in a link, of the article published in my blog. Second, solar activity will continue to increase as we get closer and closer to the solar maximum of the 25th solar cycle. Early predictions estimated that this cycle would peak in July 2025, but scientists now expect solar maximum in the late 2024. Early research by Alexander Chijevsky have shown that 60% of all social unrest occurs within a year and a half of each solar maximum. Therefore, we can expect monumental social changes between early 2023 and early 2026. It is to say 1.5 years of the current solar maximum of solar cycle 25. This coincides perfectly with the portal 2025 and with Benza Dono's prophecy. The event. They will collapse all the negative timelines and all timelines will converge on the event. At the time of maximum social unrest and with enough anomalies eliminated, the forces of light will upgrade the current state of emergency for the surface of the planet to martial law. This practically means that the entire surface population will be subjected to a brief lockdown, 3 to 7 days, during which mass arrests would take place. People will be instructed to stay strictly indoors to ensure safe operations without collateral damage. The positive forces will use quantum pulse weapons to block the weaponry of the negative forces and freeze those who would refuse to obey the orders of the positive armed forces. A major aspect of the plan for the event, which will come as a great surprise to almost everyone, has yet to be classified. After the event, surface society will undergo a drastic transformation that will take some years. The surface population will continue to integrate information about the exposure and disclosure that will be published through the news media and begin to heal their deep psychological wounds from the dark past. While the most extreme will be removed from the planet's surface at the event, shortly thereafter, many latent sociopaths will remain in society until the galactic superwave and keep a low profile without causing any harm, knowing that any harmful action would trigger their rapid removal. It takes quite some time to complete purge system. Worldwide evacuation. After the event, the vast majority of lightworkers will go through a massive healing process with much help from positive energies, angels and light forces. There is much self-healing work to be done, and it is expected a few years later, when the galactic pulse arrives, some 2,000 people will be ready to ascend in the first wave of ascension that will coincide with the galactic pulse, the superwave, and the planetary evacuation. Those who prepare to ascend will live on islands of light, which will begin to form shortly after the event. They will connect with their soulmates, many of them on motherships. They will expand their horizons beyond past programming and begin to form soul relationships. During the evacuation, Ashtar Command and Galactic Confederation ships will rescue humankind from the surface of the galactic tsunami. After the evacuation, and after the Earth undergoes its transformation, only beings fully aligned with the light will be able to return and re-inhabit the Earth on islands of light and prepare for the second and third ascension waves that will occur relatively soon thereafter. The mass of humankind will be evacuated and transported to a planet in the Pleiades star system, which is already inhabited by some 70 billion humans who were evacuated from the astral plane of the planet Earth in 1999. They will not be able to meet the minimum criteria for evolution. About 500 million surface evacuees, mostly sociopaths and psychopaths, and many of them dragons and reptilians, who arrived on Earth in the period 1996 and 1999, and lived since then in human clones on the surface, will be taken to the central sun for restructuring. This effectively means the end of darkness and suffering for the whole universe, and the new cycle of luminosity can begin. Victory of light. Protests. First, thousands descend on Ottawa to protest. The center of Canada's capital city, Ottawa, was flooded with thousands of demonstrators on February 12th, demanding an end to mandates and restrictions. Many more joined the protest led by truckers as the weekend approached. People began arriving in the city from the evening of February 11th until the following morning. Large crowds were outside Parliament Hill. People were outside Parliament Hill and then on the streets, where they spread out from the vicinity of the truck blockade. Second, protest cars blocked border access connecting British Columbia and Washington. Some vehicles forming a convoy broke through a Canadian mounted police barricade at the Pacific Highway border, crossing the connecting British Columbia and Washington state on February 12, joining other protesters who were present on foot to block the border. Third, U.S. truckers gathered at the border bridge in Michigan without causing blockades. Some U.S. truckers went to a bridge on the U.S.-Canada border Saturday to support Canadian truckers protesting the mandates. Fourth, protesters remain at U.S.-Canada border. About 200 protesters remain at the U.S.-Canada border, although police have managed to remove the protesters from the customs area. 5. The Ambassador Bridge between Canada and the US. In Canada, the Windsor police begin to remove the trucks that have been blocking the Ambassador International Bridge, which connects Canada and the US for the past 6 days. 6. The Convoy of Freedom spreads throughout Europe. In France, the Convoy of Freedom arrives in Paris with its demands against the health pass. In Cass, vans and motorhomes, they arrive from all over France to take part in a protest. The police have already fined 100 people. Some 7,200 officers and gendarmes have been deployed in the capital, with armored cars at the Arc of Triumph, to enforce the ban on a convoy of vehicles, prevent demonstrations, and prevent the blockade of the capital. 7th, Paris and The Hague start in protests. Riots and clashes with police in Paris over protest by the Freedom Convoy, which has been dispersed with tear gas from the Arc of Triumph, the Triumph area, on the Champs-Élysées, from where the Ukraine has evacuated several vehicles blocking the area. The police have issued hundreds of fines and carried out more than a dozen interpellations to the participants of the protest. In addition, huge traffic jams have formed due to police controls and motorhomes trying to access the capital. 8. New Zealand uses unusual tactics to drive out any mandate protesters. Parliamentary Speaker Trevor Mallard said he ordered the sprinkler system to be turned on the flood to the lawn where protesters were camped out. The use of sprinklers in addition to heavy rains turned the lawn outside Parliament into a muddy field. 9. Afghans take to the streets of Kabul to protest asset seizure. A group of demonstrators took to the streets of Kabul on Saturday to protest Washington's seizure of $7 billion that the previous government has staged in US banks before the Taliban invaded Afghanistan last summer. Rumors of war. First, Ukrainian president doubts alleged invasion by Russia on February 16th. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky on Saturday questioned rumors that Russia will launch an aggression against his country. In quotes, I think that today in the information space there are too many reports about the large-scale deep war on the part of the Russian Federation, and they even give corresponding dates, the president said. Second, explosion in eastern Ukraine. Several unverified reports in social networks and local media have claimed that the large explosion was heard on Saturday on the territory of the self-proclaimed Donetsk People Republic in eastern Ukraine. Third, Kremlin calls rumors about alleged Russian invasion in Ukraine absurd. Speculations about alleged Russian invasion in Ukraine are absurd, Kremlin advisor Yuri Ushakov denounced after Putin's telephone conversation with his US counterpart. Fourth, Putin tells Biden that Russia doesn't understand why the US provides false information about the invasion of Ukraine. In quotes, the Americans artificially increased the hysteria around the allegedly planned Russian invasion and in parallel with their allies swelled the military muscles of Ukraine, stated presidential advisor Yuri Ushakov. Accompanying the claims about the invasion, the premises for possibly provocative actions of the Ukrainian armed forces are created, he added. 5. Most Americans believe sending troops to Ukraine to fight Russian soldiers is a bad idea. A Duke of America poll found that most Americans believe it is a very bad idea to send troops to Ukraine to fight Russian soldiers. The poll found that citizens favor supporting Ukraine through financial aid and economic sanctions on Moscow in the event of an alleged invasion. 6. Spain recommends its citizens to leave Ukraine. The Spanish Ministry of Foreign Affairs recommends its citizens residing in Ukraine to seriously consider leaving it temporarily. It also advises against traveling to the country due to a volatile situation. 7. Josep Borrell sent a letter to Putin on behalf of the 27, and he didn't like it. In quotes, Russia does not want to talk to the Europeans and much less to the European Union. Moreover, he alludes to a letter that he sent to the 27, and we have answered collectively with a single letter signed by me. What he didn't like at all because they wanted to receive a letter from each country, but we have saved him the trouble of reading 27 identical letters, declared Borrell. 8. U.S. nuclear submarine violates Russian waters. A Virginia-class nuclear-powered attack submarine has been detected and driven away in Russian territorial waters of the Kuril Islands, Russia's defense ministry said Saturday. 9. U.S. Navy releases image of its warships encounter with swarms of drones. The bizarre encounters, which took place in 2019, generated widespread concern among observers who suggested that if the unnamed aerial systems were not operated by US military, they would pose a serious security breach. 10th. 12 major US cities broke murder records in 2021. 12 major US cities experienced record homicide numbers in 2021, Republican Senator Ted Cruz of Texas revealed the 12 cities named are Philadelphia, Austin, Portland, Indianapolis, Rochester, Toledo, St. Paul, Albuquerque, Louisville, Tucson, Columbus, and Baton Rouge. Spain and the Americas. First, Spain leaves behind most of the restrictions next week. Several autonomous communities have decided to revoke the measures they maintained in their territories, so Spain leaves behind most of the restrictions for the next week, being Murcia the only region that will maintain capacity limitations from that date. Second, the health passport will cease to be compulsory from Tuesday in Andalusia. The Minister of Health and Family of the Andalusian Regional Government, Jesus Aguirre, announced on Saturday that the law requiring a health passport in the region for access to nightlife, hospitality health, and social health establishments will be repealed on Tuesday. Third, the largest contract of the Spanish army only leaves layoffs in Andalusia. Protests against a new attempt of industrial dismantling in Andalusia. The company Santa Barbara Sistemas reduces the workload at its headquarters in Alcalá de Guadaira with 21 layoffs, despite having the largest defense contract in Spain thanks to the construction of the 8 Dragon armored vehicle for the Spanish army. Fourth, Spain and Morocco operate together militarily. A frigate and a corvette share maneuvers in the Mediterranean. The Almirante Juan de Borbón has sailed with the Sultan Moulay Ismail in the battle group led by the French aircraft carrier Charles de Gaulle in an exercise led by France. 5. Spain has sold arms to Morocco for more than 385 million euros between 1991 and 2020, of which almost half corresponds to the supply of all-terrain vehicles, according to a parliamentary answer. 6. Pederasty in the Spanish Church. In Spain, a report on sexual abuse committed within the Church of Navarra reveals 31 abusers and 52 victims in 17 schools. The report was presented on Friday by the Public University of Navarra. 7. 27% of Spaniards want to leave their jobs. 27% of Spanish employees have considered leaving their jobs this year. 23% in 2021. And the main reasons for this are mental health, economic conditions, the experience of doing something different, and work-life balance, according to a study by InfoJobs. 8. Peru fined Repsol with $122,000 for the first time. Peru fined Repsol almost $122,000 for the first time after the multinational company failed to comply with its order to identify the affected areas after a spill of thousands of barrels of crude oil in Pacific waters. The incident caused a lot of economic damage and has so far killed at least 208 birds, according to the authorities. 9. Argentine President signs decree to build gas pipeline from Vaca Muerta. Argentine President Alberto Fernández signed a decree authorizing the institution of a trust for the construction of a gas pipeline from the Vaca Muerta formation. This would be a very key work to rebut the energy deficit of the country. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.